Hi, Shane here, and today I want to talk about why sometimes you ought to just keep things to yourself. You ever have things happen in bunches where you just knew that God was talking to you? I had that happen over the last few days. This actually started back right around Christmas time when that Santa Claus story came out with the guy who went to the hospital and held the dying child. But what really struck me was the question of who brought that story to the media. If it was the Santa, what did he hope to gain from bringing that story into the public eye? And then that started me down the road of thinking about helping others and the number of videos and posts that I see on social media about people who are feeding the homeless and taking videos of it, or doing some other kind of charitable work and making what we would call a humble brag post about it. And I've looked at this from a couple of different sides. First, I looked at it from a strictly secular side. I read an article from Psychology Today, written by a woman with a PhD, who talks about the 7 different kinds of bragging, and of the 7, 6 of them are socially unacceptable, and only 1 of them is moderately acceptable. So bragging itself is seen as socially unacceptable on just a social level. Take away any religious part of it at all. And then I started to look at it from a spiritual point of view, from a faith point of view, and I was immediately drawn towards Matthew 6. The whole point of Matthew 6 is talking about people and their desire to seek attention and affirmation for charitable works and acts of piety. All of that got me to the point of thinking maybe sometimes we ought to just keep things to ourselves. Certainly from a Christian point of view, if we're going to do the things that we're called to do, if we're going to help others, feed the homeless, clothe the poor, all of these things that we're called to do, we're supposed to do them sacrificially. And that means not seeking any kind of gain or affirmation or any of that for those acts. Now, I say all of that being a person who seeks affirmation daily. I want people to notice the things that I've done, and I want them to talk about it. So what I'm telling you actually kind of goes against my own personality. That said, if I'm going to do the things that I am called to do as a Christian, I need to do them without any thought for myself. Does that mean we shouldn't be recognized for the things that we do? Absolutely not. What I'm saying is that we shouldn't be the one that recognizes us for those things. As a Christian, whose affirmation do you really need? Whose approval do you really need? Yeah, you and I both know the answer to that. If somebody recognizes what you're doing and they give you accolades for that, it's okay to be happy. If you're giving to the homeless and you put that on Facebook, you've no longer gone to feeding the homeless, you're feeding your ego. We should be helping others. We should be feeding the homeless. We should be doing all the things we're called to do as Christians, but we shouldn't be doing them in order to make our egos bigger. We ought to be doing these things because it's in our heart to do them and because we actually get joy from doing them. So if you can't do acts of charity from the heart, then you really need to ask yourself the question of why not? Because that speaks to a much bigger issue.